Good evening. Welcome to a special fall edition of Montpelier Civic Forum. And I've got a very, very special show tonight that's going to concern the upcoming bond issue. I have a very special show tonight that concerns the Central Vermont Career Center School District and their proposed measure to build a new career center. And I have next to me Jody Emerson, who runs that operation. Jody, what is on your card? What's your title?
Hi, thank you for having me. Jody Emerson, Superintendent Director. So I'm the Superintendent of the Central Vermont Career Center School District and the Director or Principal of the Central Vermont Career Center.
And that fits on one card.
Yeah.
How long have you been in that position?
This is my 4th year as the Superintendent and Director combined. It's my 5th year at the center.
How long has the school district been in existence, roughly?
This is the 4th year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What was in existence before then? Because we did have a career center down at Spalding. What's the new administrative mechanism that started 5 years ago?
So when I first came to the Career Center in 2021, it was part of the Barre Unified Union School District. And the previous director had been working towards 2 different changes. One was governance and one was this re-envisioning Central Vermont Career Center. And the reason for the governance, there's a couple. Are you ready for that?
Sure.
In 2018, the Spalding High School Board had asked the Career Centers to leave the premises and find a new space. And so they paid for a feasibility study about looking for a new space. And I think then the Act 46 mergers, my timeline could be a little off, and it became the Barre Unified Union School District. During sometime around between 2018 and 2021, the Barre Unified Union School District bought some land and built the Spalding Educational Alternatives Programming. And so I think perhaps that was what was supposed to go into where we currently reside. I'm not 100% sure on that. But when I arrived at the Career Center in 2021 and saw these 2 initiatives, I didn't feel like I had the capacity to do both as a new director. And I felt like the governance was the most important because as members of the Barre Unified Union School District, only voters in Barre City and Barre Town would vote on our budgets. But our budgets impacted all 6 sending regions.
Stop. What are the towns that are your funding regions?
So we have 18 towns. This is a good quiz question. Cabot, we have Washington Central, so Berlin, Calais, East Montpelier, Worcester, and Middlesex. We have Montpelier, Roxbury, Barre City, Barre Town, the Harwood District of Duxbury, Moortown, Waitsfield, Waterbury, Warren, I think there's one more, Fayston, and Twinfield.
How many people sit on that board?
On my board?
Yeah.
10 people. So we have 1 from each of the sending school districts. So they all appoint someone in March to their board. So that can shift every year, or it could be someone is reappointed every year. And then we have 4 at-large for the largest 4 districts. So Barre Unified Union School District, Washington Central, Montpelier, Roxbury, and Harwood all have at-large members that are voted in.
So Montpelier has 2 people on the board.
2 out of the 10.
Just for the record, who are the 2 people from Montpelier?
So the one who's appointed from the Montpelier School District, Montpelier, Roxbury, is Scott Lewins. And the at-large representative is Lyman Castle.
Former teacher, Lyman Castle.
Correct.
Your students, what % are coming out of Montpelier roughly?
Ooh, percentage. I know that we have 26 students from Montpelier this year out of our 216.
Don't expect me to do the math.
No, I don't count on math as my best either, but I'm going to say
Is that fairly stable year after year?
It is fairly stable, or it has been.
When did the last school to come in was probably Roxbury.
I think we were getting Roxbury students prior because a lot of them went to the Washington Central to U32, and so they were coming to us regardless, although Roxbury is technically listed in the Randolph Technical Center region. We each have regions by state board rule, which is quite old. It's from 2002, I think. But we each have towns that are in our regions.
How many regions are there in the state?
There are 17 CTEs, so I'm going to guess 17, but I think it might be smaller than that because there's some overlap.
Was that addressed in the recent significant change in school governance that came through the legislature?
It's been an interesting conversation around career and technical education. The agency first put forward a suggestion that all of the career and tech education centers be put into one district, and that would be a BOCES model. Originally, they did switch to that should be one school district with a superintendent at the end of the session. There really hasn't been a lot more done with it. There was talk of having a little bit extra weight for CTE students just because of the cost of equipment for our programs, but they didn't model us in the funding formula, so
Is
it's a
that
wait
still
and see.
flexible and fluid?
It is still flexible and fluid. What I see is that there's two potential pathways. They could create new districts for schools across our state, and we could be placed in a region. It could be a new region. It could end up being the same region. Or CTEs are going to be placed in one single district, which is statewide.
Are students guaranteed students who desire vocational education, is that a guarantee in Vermont?
It's a flexible pathway. There are opportunities, and there's not enough space for everyone right now.
Across the state or in our district?
In our district specifically, but across the state in several areas, there are students who are turned away. And then there are other regions where they are looking for students. So this year we were able to send many students down to Randolph that we couldn't accept. So some of them got access, they just have to travel a little further.
Is the Randolph Center aligned with the Votech College at Randolph?
No, it's part of the Orange Southwest District.
Votech education at Berry, has it always been at Spalding in our region?
Yes, our regional has always existed at Spalding. It was the Berry Vocational Center, then the Berry Tech Center, and then it got kind of renamed the Central Vermont Career Center.
How many students attend?
This year we have 215. We've had up to 220.
How many apply?
This year we had 423 individual students apply.
So it's 2 to 1.
Yeah.
Is it part-time? Is it full-time? If your student is at high school in Montpelier or living in Montpelier and going to take cosmetology, welding, whatever, is that full-time? At what grade will they go in? All of those mechanics.
Okay. So it's a little bit complicated. For us in career and technical education, a full-time center is a 4-hour-a-day program. A half-time center is just over 2 hours a day. So we do have a full-time center. It's 4 hours a day programming, but we do not have a full day. And so that means students come, they arrive on our campus between 8 and 8:20. They start in their program at 8:30. They are in program until 12:30, so 4 straight hours in program. Then they can either leave if they drove themselves, or they go to lunch, and then they get back on their bus and they go back to the sending school to complete some of the coursework that we don't offer that's academic in nature.
So their academic coursework will be in Montpelier High School in this
Some of
particular-
it. We do
And
have
what
embedded.
grade do they go in?
So we do have embedded credits. So they do get credits for some of their academics as part of the program. So they all get a social studies, an English, a science, and a math in those programs. Students generally come to us, some of them come as sophomores. A few, a really small number, come as freshmen, and they enter into our exploratory program, which allows them to check out every program we have and really decide where do they want to go. And then they can apply for those. And then juniors and seniors are the ones for which access is most available, and they can go into any of our programming. They apply and get accepted.
The streams that you guys are offering right now are, I mentioned cosmetology because
You
I
did.
recall that.
I'm going to have to take a mental tour through the building to try to not miss anything. We have baking arts and culinary arts. We have electrical technology, where students can get their level 1 apprenticeship license as an electrician. We have welding and cosmetology. We have plumbing and heating. We have automotive, and we have building trades. We have emergency services. We have that exploratory program I just talked about. We have medical professions, and we have 2 digital media arts programs. One is graphic design, and one is videography. I think you have folks on staff here at Orca that graduated out of that program, and they also get to use this space sometimes, which is a wonderful asset that Orca has.
When I get out of that program as a student, do I get certification? You had mentioned one that gave me, an
Yeah.
apprentice.
So the plumbing heating program also has the apprenticeship license level 1, so students can test out and get that. It depends on the program. Baking and culinary arts both have the ServSafe managerial IRCs, so it's an industry recognized credential, but they also have college credits from White Mountains Community College. Automotive has I'm gonna forget the name, but it's ASE. So those certifications that are student level ASE certifications, and they also have credits this year from White Mountains Community College. Our building trades program has national credentialing out of NCCER, which is a national curriculum.
I'm not even going to
I know you're nodding like that is.
For.
It's a national curriculum for construction trades, and so they have some components out of that. Core and basic carpentry, or carpentry level 1 that they get. Our EMS students get EMT certified out of their program. Medical professions get CCMA, which is the medical assisting, and they also get 8 credits of physiology and anatomy. EMS also has the EMT 5 credits. So there's credits across. Our digital media arts, they have a lot of CCV credits using Adobe particularly. They also have a portfolio that is a Tier 1 industry recognized credential, or Tier 2, sorry.
Are there grappling hooks between your programs and the VOTEC colleges like at Randolph?
Can you say that another way?
Sure, I'll try and say it in English. When one gets out of there, is there a natural transition point from there into vocational technical on the junior college
Sometimes there are. So for plumbing and heating and electrical, there's the apprenticeship courses that may be offered at BTC or VTSU. And in some cases, like we used to have emergency services too, which started a paramedic program. So the students would start in their paramedic program while they were with us, with our support, and then they would continue on in that program after they were done with us. There are certainly many students out of our medical professions that go into nursing programs around our different colleges, so I can't say that one of them has more hooks in them than another one. There are less opportunities for students in baking and culinary. Cosmetology students, they get their cosmetologist license and can go straight into owning their own shop if they have the capacity to do that. So I didn't mention that one before. Welding, we get a ton of certifications. This is the second year of that program, and 4 of our first years are working over at DMS, the Men of Steel. So they're already working there with them, which is exciting. It's a brand new program.
In terms of, again, that next step into college, I imagine you guys are encouraging that, yes?
Certainly. I mean, it's up to the student. What do they want to do? They have the skills where many of them can go straight into the workforce, which helps them to pay for college should they want to do that. Some of them do pursue college and they have credits from us that they can take with them. And some choose to go straight into an industry.
Now, what you're attempting to do with this proposal is to get more space, to ramp up. How many more students do you see taking in if this were actually fully implemented?
The new space could have 450 to 500 students. I'm really aiming for that 450, kind of doubling our capacity now. Some of that will be duplicating programming. For instance, in electrical technology alone, we had over 60 students apply for that program. We have 20, and that's because we hired an additional instructor. Normally you can only take 16. That's part of the rules around potentially dangerous. So some of our students are in the electrical program at Randolph, and some of them hopefully will try again next year when we added a teacher, we'll take and be able to split, and we'll have hopefully 2 electrical courses. So that's a model that we'd like to do with some of the popular classes. So that would be plumbing and heating, automotive, building trades, medical professions. And then we'd like to add in some new programming.
And what would that new programming be?
We're looking at either business IT or cybersecurity in IT. And we're also looking at diesel, which is going to support in the transportation fields, automotive. It's not going away, and there is definitely a need in our region. And then we're also looking at bringing back human services and natural resources.
What would that be? What kind of occupation?
Human services is early childhood, early child care, so helping out our child care facilities. Natural resources is more the diversified agriculture, forestry track. We're hoping to add an animal science, which would be vet techs.
It's 2025, late in the year. This project that's coming before a vote started in 2018.
Yes.
How did it start? What was the beginning of this project?
So I wasn't at the center at the time, but my understanding is the beginning, really that kickoff was the Spalding board asking CVCC to leave. Asking them to leave and funding this feasibility study to see, does it make sense to stay here or go? And from there, another study was done. They worked with LaValle Brensinger and Truex Collins separately. LaValle Brensinger is an architect that designs the lab spaces for CTEs throughout New England, both high school and college level. Truex Collins is known in the state of Vermont for their school work and school design. And for us, after becoming a new district and really taking that next step to say, okay, we do want to look at how can we provide more access for students, they proposed to work together on this, and their knowledge of their project already just made that an easy fit.
Okay, at this point, I want to sit and take Montpelier Civic Forum up a step, because these firms also put together really great PowerPoint presentations. And so would you do me a favor, please, Jody, and open up their PowerPoint presentation and explain the project a little bit off that?
Sure. So again, we became a new district, which allows all 18 towns to have a say in our votes, in our budget votes, and in this bond vote. And then we pulled them back together and started this work. And so I would say first that the school district, once we got CVCC SD up and running, then it was, what are our goals as a board? And the board really wanted to make sure that we had the ability to serve all of the eligible students in our region who wanted to have access.
Or as many at least.
Or as many as possible, yeah. And noted that our facilities currently prevent us from doing so. It's very difficult to expand. We actually, because of a recent stormwater project, lost parking. So students don't have parking on our site. And so there are lots of reasons for this that we've already talked about. We want to make sure that we're expanding our capacity. We want to move to that full day model where we have the students all day and provide all of their academics integrated into the programs that engage them, or at least tangentially similar to, so that they feel like, I know why I'm taking this course, or I know why I'm studying this thing. It relates to what I'm learning and where my future goals. And we hope to move that exploratory program that I talked about down to the 9th grade and build career pathways. So any student who takes exploratory and is interested maybe in the health sciences can take a 10th grade exploratory, get some of that first aid and basic stuff out of the way, and then really dive deeper as they go up into those programs and potentially work closer to an associate's degree before they leave us. So that's one of our goals, is to keep increasing the rigor.
And again, that's a bridge to post-secondary?
Correct. It's a bridge to that career and to that post-secondary, to both. And then one of the things we need to do is to really strengthen our partnerships across our schools and figure out ways to support our middle schoolers to get in and to see what the opportunities are and maybe have some after-school programming or some other
Well, you
opportunities.
still invite people, even now,
We
right?
invite a lot of tours,
Right.
and we have lots of folks coming through our building all the time. It's not the same as partnering with and helping with the career exploration at the middle school level, which is definitely a part of the newest act.
So in 2018, you're studying capacity and the like. I know you searched for a building. You searched far and wide on how to find a place. Can you just briefly explain that search?
Yeah, I'm going to flip through a few slides here to get to that one. Some of these could be used for previous discussions, if that makes sense. So I'm on that slide now. So we set up some selection criteria. First, we founded the Facilities Committee of the Central Vermont Career Center School District Board, and we invited some folks to participate that were not board members. We wanted a few more voices on there, so we created a survey, basically a Google form that people could choose to opt in. So we did have other voices that were part of this project. And when we were talking about what does it mean to be, where do we want to look, we thought about centrally located. So we mapped out our region. It's a little crazy looking when you think about the map because Northfield and Williamstown are technically not in my district, but they're, when you surround Warren and Roxbury, go below them, so they were kind of brought in to it. We do have Williamstown and Northfield students because a student can attend a center that doesn't, if we have something that Randolph doesn't provide, because Randolph is their center, then they can apply and be accepted into our programming. So centrally located, we wanted 20 acres minimum. Municipal sewer and water nearby initially, that was our ask. 3-phase electrical power, because we use a lot of electricity with
What
our
is
welding.
3-stage electrical power?
3-phase, good question. It's making sure that we can power up anything that we use in our program, so that we can have our automotive space fully running, we can have all our welders going, and the ventilation system that's required for that. So making sure we have the different levels of
So
power.
it's heavy-duty capacity.
Heavy-duty capacity, exactly. Because some of it might run on the 110, but some of it's going to be higher up, right? Making sure that there were paved roads nearby, that the 20 acres was developable, and that it wasn't like this thin, long piece of land, right? That we couldn't necessarily build
And that it
center.
wasn't in a floodplain.
And it wasn't in a floodplain. We didn't say that, but we intuitively knew it. And when we looked at how many sites, and this is, the civil engineers did this, and they did it basically by looking at everybody's property. So it could have looked at yours, mine if I had any here, all of that. And basically 193 sites met the first 3 criteria. 33 met all 7 criteria. And that it doesn't mean that they were for sale. It's just these properties met that criteria. And when we removed the nearby from those statements, then we had 16 sites. And so our associates said, here are the top 10 sites. We divided that. The facilities committee divided into top 7, and then another list of, if none of these are available to us, call.
And
then
all of these were empty, did not have a structure
not
on them.
necessarily. They might have had a structure. They might have had a home. They might have had a building. They might have been empty. That was not part of the criteria. So then I had to figure out who owned the properties and try to figure out how to get a hold of them. So I called a lot of people and asked them if they'd be willing to consider selling their property to us. And I got a lot of no's for very good reasons. Some people had land that was in land trust, for example, and pulling it out of there was going to be expensive, and they really didn't have an interest, or they wanted to hand it off to their family, or it might be their sugarwood. That was my favorite, actually. And in some cases, it was already up for sale, and it was under contract with somebody else. That was true for a couple of Berlin properties. There was a property that we were interested in, but the owner had signed an agreement on having a solar field there, and didn't think they could get out of it. So there were lots of interesting things. We considered also some co-location. So we considered, what if we built this at U32? If we imagine that U32 becomes the regional high school, then should we be there? We would displace some of the sports fields, some of the parking. Well, where do you put that? How do you sell that to the community? Where do you do that? And they were involved in their own discussions about how to just reconfigure their district, we weren't able to have those conversations. We did a test fit at Spalding High School. Could we expand it with a new wing of the building? And that too displaces parking. We would have to build a parking garage. We have to mitigate potential flooding because it too is in a flood zone.
So the winner went rural.
Yeah.
Graniteville, I think.
Yes. So we had looked at all of these different sites. There was one in Berlin that we walked through several times. We didn't do the formal wetlands delineation, but we did do an informal one and found that the majority of that site was not feasible for us, unfortunately, because the location was perfect. And then we moved up into the Graniteville area. We talked to Berrytown officials about some of their industrial park, which there are covenants there that apparently won't allow us there. I'd reached out even to Montpelier City Council or City Manager about the country club property.
Well, I imagine that there was joy in jumping up and down for that one.
Well, the first time I reached out, they were like well into their housing plan, and it just wasn't feasible at that time. The second time was, maybe could you have a public gym? And there was another question, and we could talk about it. I don't know. And that just didn't go anywhere. And then we met some property owners in Graniteville who had 27 acres, and they're ready to downsize, and they were open to it.
And the egress, ingress is sufficient?
Perfect. They actually have three right-of-ways onto that property. And so we'll be able to use 2 of them in this design.
Distance from, the existing, how far from the site in Spalding is it?
I think it's like a 7-minute drive.
So on the margin, it really isn't that much further than going to Spalding?
It isn't. And for some of I know the students coming from Harwood District, for example, the bus already comes down and comes off of exit 6. So they come off of exit 6 and then they go up to Spalding. In this case, they're just changing their direction and going straight across that intersection and up Middle Road to get to us.
If this were voted affirmative, when would this open?
Fall of 29. We would need to basically we've got the concept design, but we haven't done all of the designing and details of the build, so that and the permits would take a little bit of time, and then by the spring of 27, we should be able to start construction, and it should be completed in the spring of 29.
Now, we're half an hour into this show, and we're going to hit the price. What is the cost estimate for this, and how did you arrive at that cost estimate?
So the cost estimate is $149 million. And basically, there are a bunch of consultants working with Truex Collins and LaValle Brensinger. And they took all of the programming and the space and what we're looking at. And I think I'll come back to these images, so you won't want to use the images yet. They looked at everything we would need. The goal is a net zero building, not net zero programming. We know that welding's not going to be net zero, for example, but a net zero building and with all of the programming that we have.
Do you anticipate solar panels?
Yes, there are solar panels on the roof if you look at those pictures that are on our website, and you can see this whole slideshow there. So they came back with a spreadsheet of all of the things that they anticipated we would need and the costs. We went back with some questions, and they came back with that amount, and we felt like we had contingencies in place. So, for instance, there have been questions about whether or not the Graniteville Fire District can support us with the water that we would need. We could drill a well. We have contingency for that. There's questions about 2 specific junctions and how the traffic might impact those. If there needs to be upgrades there, we have some contingency built in for that.
Now, this is a question that you might not be able to answer. The $150 million cost, when was the last career center built in Vermont? And how much was it? You know, keeping in mind that the dollars and those dollars and these dollars are different. Is 150 million in the ballpark of contemporary career centers?
That's a really good question. I think the last brand new build was at the Hannaford Center in Middlebury, and I think that was in 2007, and they only have 3 programs at that site. So they still have the majority of their programming is at Middlebury High School, and they have 3 programs at the North Campus. I have no idea how much that cost. I'd have to look into that and get back to you. I know that North Country Career Center was renovated, but they were not newly built.
Is there any way that this could have been conceived in a incremental manner so that some of the programs stayed at Spalding and some of them went out to this, and then with the understanding that with time going, we're going to try and consolidate this to be able to chunk away at 150 million and get it down to a lesser degree without sitting and questioning the integrity of the existing program space?
We had that question at one of the forums, and I think Cam Featherston-Ha, who's part of Truex Collins, answered it pretty well in that, do we have the appetite for slowly, incrementally adding more and not being able to add all the students that want to get in yet, or do we want to just build the thing? And then there was a question of, well, what if you build it and now more and more students want to come and now you still don't have enough room, you're going to have to build more. And the answer was, at that time, we'll have to make that decision, but this is what made sense based on the current number of students trying to get in and what we think the community needs.
The operating budget, will it increase the tax load in the cities to have more teachers teaching more students? Is this step one, you know, the capital budget, and then it leads to an operating budget request?
Yeah, so our operating budget is under $6 million right now. We anticipate another $3 million to add in the instructors for those programs, and any other staffing that we might need. So that brings our operating budget up for sure. The building is certainly the significant cost.
How does that fold in currently? Well, this is Montpelier. How does it fold in to Montpelier's budget?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. I'm going to just close this again because I don't think we need it now. Our budget is developed outside of all of our sending schools, and I get to, in every December, get to go and present it to our sending school boards and share with them what we anticipate our budget will be for the upcoming school year. And they know, because of their 6-semester average of students, what that cost will be to them. So CTEs get some money direct from the education fund, and the rest we bill back to our sending schools based on this tuition formula and the 6-semester average. So there's some good things about that and bad. Good things is that for most of our schools, it's been pretty even. There are no high spikes because we're not going year to year. It's kind of that average kind of levels it out. Difficulty around that is when I add a new program and I can take 16 new students that weren't part of the roster before, it takes 3 years to catch up. So we're spending money on kids that we have now that we're not getting the tuition for.
And in the district, we would see a sudden spike up, and then it would stay stable.
We're hoping we can build some more of that programming. So we had talked about the welding program. This is its 2nd year, so that's our newest program. We did add an electrical instructor this year to duplicate that program. Right now, what we've done is we've put them in a model where both of our electrical instructors are teaching together so that our new instructor can learn from our existing instructor. And they have 20 kids, so we were able to increase it a little bit. Next year, we can have 2 separate programs. And so we're hoping to start building some of those up. in order to not have it all hit at once.
There's an elephant in the room, and it's that great education bill, the significant educational change that the state, I think it's Act 73,
Yeah.
that the state passed that's really still amorphous. Will there be a possibility there won't be a district? And how does that affect the bond that we'd be passing?
Very good question, and I can only guess. So, career and technical education will, if there is a change in the school districts across the state of Vermont, career and technical education will either be put into a regional district or put into one single career and technical education district. If it follows the way that Act 46 did, then whatever towns are in that new district would take on that full amount of the bond. But we don't know if that's going to happen yet.
And we have a November election.
We have a November election. It feels like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity because we probably will not, if there's a transformation in our governance in districts, we will not be a district. The Central Vermont Career Center School District will not be a district. We will either be part of a regional district or part of a single CTE district.
If we were part of a single district, would our obligation in this be transferred to the single district?
Yes.
So basically, we'd be voting 150 million now, and the state would assume that 150 million?
It seems like that's the case based on what happened with Act 46.
Act 46, just for discussion purposes, I'm sorry. Act 46, for the basis of clarification, was the act that merged Roxbury and Montpelier,
Right.
and as well as many other school districts.
Yeah.
But just to frame what Act 46 was.
Right.
If you're going to create unified high schools, you're going to have, let me start this again. I knew I'd go into the weeds at one point. Okay. If you're going to have an act similar to Act 46, a formula, Act 46 gave significant tax breaks, property tax breaks, to induce districts to sit and merge. Do people in your position and the like see them offering districts construction money to sit and try and make these schools fit with one another? Because these jigsaw puzzles are not going to fit without retrofitting.
There's definitely school construction funding in the bill, but it doesn't talk about paying for it. And so it's questionable how that will turn out. I think there's an understanding that regardless of what happens, there are lots of schools that are going to need something to change to be able to fit more students if we're making regional high schools. I think it's a myth that education is going to cost less if we merge everything. It won't at first. Eventually, it might. But initially, there's going to be growing pains and there's going to be a need to renovate or build across the state. And so I think that's going to cost money, and I certainly hope there's a construction fund available for that. I think there are lots of potential revenue sources that we have not yet explored.
Such as?
Well, we toured some centers in Maine before coming up with our concept design, and some of those programs are sponsored by companies. I remember one outside of one door, might have been the electrical program at one of the schools we visited, was sponsored by Makita. So do they have some capacity? Do some businesses across our country have some capacity to support this? Is there a nonprofit or an entity that would want to invest in this because they see the benefits of growing our workforce? Are there grants available that we can put towards it? So while we're asking for this $149 million, because we need to really be very clear that it could be on our 18 towns taxpayers to make sure that we pay this back, it doesn't mean that we're not going to keep looking for other options to help fund it.
If this does not pass, you've done all of this work. If the circumstances change, in terms of just what the battlefield looks like, when the smoke clears, is it possible that this might come back again?
I think it depends on the will of whatever district and superintendent is in charge at that time.
But we've done the spade work already. The heavy lifting has been done
Yes.
for this project. So it is possible that when everything clears, that possibly this might come again. Although that land might have been sold by then in Graniteville.
Yeah, we will have lost the option on that land for sure, but anything's possible. It's really hard to project. I keep telling when people ask me, my crystal ball is definitely not working. I don't know.
Well, no one knows.
Right? I can't predict that, and it feels like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to really grow Central Vermont's workforce and to keep our students here and working here and supporting all of us in all of the trades that really matter, to build new housing, to make sure that if I'm not feeling well or if I'm in an accident, that I get the care that I need, and if something breaks in my home, that I can get it fixed.
And that people will stay in school.
And that people will stay in school. Yes, the engagement level of our students, and even already this year, we've had parents telling us that their student has come home excited about school again. They haven't seen this for years.
What is your closing argument to someone who says, I understand what the problem is? You've convinced me that there are kids who need this, that Montpelier could use another plumber rather than another lawyer. The cost.
Our students are going to help pay for this. I think that's really important. Over 90% of students who graduate from CTE stay in the state, and they get jobs here, and they build their homes here, and they raise their families here. We have a population that is aging. We have a declining enrollment. The only way to rebuild Vermont is to keep our kids here and grow our businesses back up and grow our housing and all of it. And this is one way to do that in Central Vermont. And if we can't invest in it in the capital region, are we going to?
Jody, before I let you go, I want to talk about the election itself. What was the choice of November rather than town meeting day?
Because we don't know what the legislature is going to do. And so we don't know what could change between now and then. It also felt like a really good time when people would be going out, and this is the only thing in most of our towns, not all of them, but most of them, that people are voting for. And so we would get a clear decision from our community members. Throughout the process, at least the process that I've been involved in, there have been limited voices that we've heard from. And so this is a way for us to get all of the voices that are feeling one way or another. Either they're for it or they're against it. They go out, they vote. There's nothing else they're voting for, so we know they came out explicitly for this, and we find out what they feel, what they want to do.
I want to talk about the election because it's not a general election, it's a special election.
Right.
And all of us in Vermont have gotten very, very used to having the absentee ballots routinely sent to us. That's not going to happen this time. If you want an absentee ballot, you're going to have to request it from the city clerk. Now, as of today, those ballots are not there, but they will be here by the 29th of September. So if you're watching this from the 29th of September on, the absentee ballots will be. You can get them by calling the city clerk. You can go to the website. They have a URL to request. You can send an email to the city clerk. And again, then the procedure is the normal procedure for handling absentee ballots. Of course, on election day, you're always welcome to come and encouraged to come. But this is two issues. One, it's a significant sum on one side, and then on the other side, you have a group of people who we have a demonstrated need for amongst the students. So you're balanced. It's a balancing act. And it doesn't all depend on the need of students. It doesn't all depend on the cost, but it is dependent on people weighing in. And it would be a real shame if this were the lowest of low turnout elections. And one more thing, if one town, it's the aggregate vote. If one town votes no, and the rest of them vote yes, and it's 50+1, then everybody has to live with this. It's not like a unified school district where everyone has to agree. So I would like to see this to be a moderate to high turnout election, but there's a lot of things that I would like to see that don't happen. And I thank you very much, Jody, for being here and for speaking to everyone and showing us those great slides. and I thank you for watching.